What happens when a corrupt judge mocks a man who lost everything? Your God won't save you, he laughed. But when a quiet stranger appeared, the system crumbled. You won't believe how Mateo's ruined hands changed the ending forever. The air in the Quezon City courtroom was thick. It smelled like floor wax and old dusty files. Mateo stood there. He was 52 years old. His hands trembled. He only had 45 pesos in his pocket. A small prayer lived in his heart. The rich man's gold watch flashed in the dim light. He laughed. Judge Guzman looked down from his high bench. His heart was as hard as a stone. Mateo begged for 30 days. Just 30 days to save his small house. In the front row, a rich developer laughed. He mocked a crying widow nearby. The humidity made everyone's skin feel sticky. Then, the judge leaned forward. His eyes were cold like ice. Don't look at the ceiling, Mateo, Guzman sneered. Your God won't save you from my signature. The room went silent. Even the ceiling fans seemed to stop. Mateo felt the floor give way. The truth is about to be revealed in this humid room. If you believe in God's justice, please like and subscribe to our channel. Have you ever felt like the world was closing in on you? Mateo was not always a ghost in a courtroom. For 14 straight years, he was a pillar. He worked at the Dagat-Dagatan steel warehouse daily. Every worker knew his face and his name. He arrived at 6 every single morning. He was the man who locked the gates. His life was built on honest, salty sweat. He kept every single receipt from the years. Water bills, electric bills, junior school fees. They lived inside a blue plastic mega box. It was his treasure under the wooden bed. Papers don't lie, Elena, he told his wife. He believed hard work was a strong shield. He believed the law protected the honest man. On Sundays, Mateo had a very special routine. He sat on a stool with black polish. He rubbed his boots until they were mirrors. He wanted to look decent for the Lord. His faith was quiet like the morning mist. It was in his hands and clean shirt. He never skipped a day of hard work. He never took a bribe from any driver. Kuya Mateo is the most honest, neighbors said. He felt pride in his very simple life. He followed every rule of the big city. He paid his taxes with a tired smile. He saved every centavo for his son's future. The blue megabox grew heavier each passing year. To Mateo, that weight felt like real peace. He was a man of order in chaos. He didn't see the rot in the system. He didn't know a pen could be a knife. A great trial is coming for this man of faith. If you find hope in stories of God's quiet strength, please like and subscribe to our channel. Mateo stood and looked at the tall shelves. He knew every bag of heavy cement there. He felt part of the city's very structure. He walked home past the noisy sari-sari stores. He waved at the busy jeepney drivers daily. God is good, Kuya Mateo, they often shouted. Mateo touched his cross and nodded his head. His life felt as solid as wet concrete. His 14 years of loyalty felt like a fortress. But the wind was starting to pick up. The air smelled like the coming heavy rain. The blue box was near the rising tide. His world of order was facing total chaos. Then came the dark month of July. The year was 2024. The warehouse gates stayed locked tight. The boss disappeared with the money. Mateo had zero back pay left. 14 years of loyalty meant nothing. Then the sky turned heavy black. Typhoon Karina hit the city hard. The rain did not stop falling. The Marikina River overflowed its banks. The water rushed into their room. It rose so fast and cold, it reached the very ceiling quickly. Matteo tried to grab the box. The blue mega box was very heavy. The current was much stronger now. The box slipped from his hands. He watched his life float away.
The water was brown and toxic. It smelled like sewage and fear.
"Save the boy!" Matteo shouted loudly. When the water finally receded later, everything was covered in thick mud. Matteo searched the wet, dark ground. He found the blue plastic lid. Inside, there was only grey pulp. His birth certificate was gone forever. The land tax receipts were soup. His history was deleted by water. "I am nobody now," he whispered. He felt like a walking ghost. The system did not know him. He had no ID left now. He had no proof of life. Matteo's identity is gone, but something deeper remains. If you believe that God remembers the forgotten, please like and subscribe to our channel. Matteo stood in the deep mud. He tried to move a beam. His strength was completely gone today. A man walked through the mud. He wore a faded white barong. His shirt was simple and clean. He looked like a common worker. His face was tan and kind. The stranger gripped the heavy beam. Together, they moved the great weight. "Thank you," Matteo said very weakly. The stranger looked into his eyes. His gaze was deep and steady. Names are written in high places, places where water cannot reach. The stranger's voice was like music, but Matteo shook his head sadly. He was too broken to hear. He was too angry to care. "Papers are everything here," he spat. The man in white nodded slowly. He stayed for a quiet moment. Then he walked down the street. Matteo watched him go away slowly. The mud felt like a grave. His identity was buried in filth. He was a man without papers. He was a man without hope. The grey pulp smelled like death. He sat on the wet ground. He cried for his lost box. He cried for his lost life. The sky was still very grey. The city was very quiet today. The silence felt like a wall. Matteo felt smaller than a grain. His shield was gone forever now. He was lost in the dark. The man in white was gone. Matteo was alone in the ruins. His heart was a cold stone. The storm had taken his soul.
Everything he built was now mud. The world seemed to forget him. But the stranger's words remained there. They hummed in the heavy air. Matteo did not understand them yet. He felt like a broken man, a man with no name left, a man with no future ahead. His tears fell into the mud. The silence was his only friend. The rain started to fall again. It was a soft, weeping rain. Matteo looked at his empty hands. They were stained with dark earth. "I have nothing," he told himself. The city lights flickered in distance. He stood among the broken wood. He was a ghost in Manila, a soul without any paper trail. The shanty was dark and damp. The silence was louder than the typhoon. Matteo did not speak to Elena anymore. He felt like a piece of broken furniture. He was just taking up space now. He was a burden to his family. Junior came to him with big eyes. "Tay, when can we buy the basketball?" Matteo looked away at the mud floor. The shame was a heavy, sharp stone. He could not look at his son. He could not look at his wife. He left the house every single morning. He walked to the local plaza slowly. He sat on a cold wooden bench. He found a newspaper from last year. He held it up to hide his face. He did not read the old news. He just wanted to be invisible there. People walked past him in the sun. They did not see the broken man. Matteo was trapped in a grey cage. It was the cruel poverty of papers. No ID meant no work for him. No work meant no money for IDs. The system was a snake biting its tail. He felt deleted from the world's book. Even the sun felt cold on him. He was a man without a country. He was a man without a name. He was a man without a future. His pride was gone with the water. He felt like a hollow bamboo stick. The wind blew right through his soul. He stayed in the plaza until dark. He did not want to go home. Home was a place of quiet questions. He had no answers for his family. He was a ghost in Quezon City. The city was moving very fast now. He was standing very, very still. His soul was a dry, empty well. He was waiting for the end. The silence in the shanty was cold. Elena watched him from the corner daily. She wanted to touch his tired hand, but Matteo pulled his hand away quickly. He was a stranger in his house. He was a stranger to himself. The newspaper was his only shield now. It was full of old, dead words, just like his life felt now. He was a man waiting for nothing. The smell of damp wood filled him. He remembered his old white work boots. They were buried in the black mud. He had no shoes for the church. He had no spirit for the prayer. Every morning he walked the same path. The jeepneys roared past him with smoke. The street vendors shouted their loud prices, but Matteo heard nothing but the silence. He was a man who lost himself. The poverty of papers was a wall. He could not climb over it anymore. He could not dig under it either. He was stuck in a grey hole. The judge's laugh echoed in his head. "Your God won't save you," he heard. The words felt like a heavy chain. He started to believe the cruel judge. He started to hate his own name, if he even had a name left. The 2023 news was his friend. It told stories of a different world, a world where he was still Matteo, a world where he had a job, a world where he had a box. Now he was just a shadow sitting, a shadow on a wooden plaza bench, waiting for the sun to go down, waiting for the light to finally die. It was a Tuesday afternoon in the slums. The neighbors called it Black Tuesday later. The man from the electric company arrived. He wore a bright orange work vest. He did not look at Matteo's eyes. He just pulled the metal lever down. The small plastic fan in the corner stopped. The light bulb flickered and died out. "You owe 3,200 pesos. The man spoke with a flat voice. He handed a red notice to Matteo. Matteo looked at his empty, rough palms. He had exactly 0 pesos today. He sat on the bare concrete floor. The room felt like a dark oven. Oh, the shame of a provider. He stared at his thick, calloused hands. These hands worked for 14 long years. Now they could not even keep light. He remembered Judge Guzman's loud laugh. "Your God won't save you," Guzman said. The words felt like sharp, rusty nails. Matteo whispered the words to the wall. The judge was right all along, he thought. How could a good man fall so low? The system had finally deleted his name. He was a number that became 0. Elena entered the room with a candle. The small flame danced in the heat. "We will find a way, Matteo," she said. Her voice was soft and very tired. Matteo looked up but saw no hope. "There is no more way, Elena," he said. "The papers are gone in the mud. The warehouse is closed and gone too. I am a broken man," he added. He felt completely hollow inside his chest. Matteo has lost everything, even his own hope. If you believe that even in the darkest night God is preparing a light, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. He made a very hard, cold decision. Pack the bags for you and Junior. Go to your sister's house in Pangasinan. Elena dropped the small white candle. "What are you saying, Matteo?" she cried. "I am no longer a father," he replied. "I am no longer a husband either. I am just a piece of trash. I cannot even provide one light bulb. I cannot buy rice for my son." What a bitter cup he had to drink. He felt he was failing them both. It was better if they left him. He wanted to fade into the shadows. He wanted the silence to take him. He stopped fighting the heavy, dark tide. The darkness in the room was absolute. He was a man who surrendered everything. He was waiting for the final breath. The house felt like a wooden coffin. He closed his eyes and prayed nothing. "The judge was right," he whispered again. "God has forgotten this small dark room." The heat was like a heavy hand. It pressed him down to the floor. He did not move for many hours. He was a ghost in his own home. The darkness felt like a heavy blanket. "Go now," he whispered to the air. "Let me be forgotten by everyone today." He felt the end of his story. There were no more pages to turn. His 14 years were just dry dust. The black tide had finally won today. He was alone in the deep dark. There was a very soft knock on the wooden door. It was not the loud, angry bang of a debt collector. It was a gentle and steady sound in the deep dark. Matteo did not want to move from the cold concrete floor. He felt like he belonged to the shadows now. But the door opened slowly with a quiet, rusty creak. A man stood there in the narrow frame of moonlight. He wore a simple and faded white cotton shirt. His skin was dark and weathered by the tropical sun. His eyes were clear and deep like the Sulu Sea. Matteo recognized him from the busy streets of the neighborhood. It was Chuy, the freelance carpenter who worked near the plaza. Chuy did not carry a heavy Bible or a plastic bag of food. He did not bring a sack of white rice for the family. He only carried a small, handmade wooden stool in his hand. He walked inside the dark, humid room very quietly. He did not judge the thick smell of the damp walls. He did not ask why the light bulb was dark and dead. He simply placed his stool on the floor next to Matteo. He sat down right there in the silence with him. They sat together for a long time without any words. The only sound was the breathing of two tired men. Chuy looked up at the old, dusty wall clock. The clock was stuck at 4 o'clock exactly. It had not made a sound since the big flood came. "How long has it been silent, Matteo?" Chuy asked softly. His voice was low and very, very calm. It felt like a cool breeze on a very hot day. Matteo looked at the broken plastic face of the clock.
"It died when the water reached the top shelf," Matteo said. "Just like everything else in this small, broken house." The heavy dam inside Matteo's soul finally began to break. The words started to pour out like a mountain river. He told Chuy about the blue plastic megabox under the bed.
He told him about the 14 years of quiet, honest work.
I kept every single receipt for my son, Junior, he cried. I followed every rule that the big city made for us. I worked from 6 until 8 every single day. And now the flood took my whole name away. The judge laughed at my empty and muddy hands. He told me that my God was very far away. Maybe the judge is right about me today, Chewy. I am just a man made of wet gray paper. Mateo's voice shook with a terrible and deep pain. He talked about the warehouse and the zero back pay. He talked about the darkness and the cold light bulb. The truth is about to emerge from the deep shadows. If you believe that God hears every silent cry, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Chewy did not interrupt the long and sad story. He did not offer any quick or cheap words of advice. He listened with a heavy and respectful kind of silence. This silence felt like a healing and very warm balm. It was the silence of a true and very old friend. Chewy's hands were rough and full of many old scars. They were the hands of a man who builds things. He touched the dusty floor with his strong fingers. Mateo looked at Chewy's calm and very quiet face. There was no pity in the carpenter's deep eyes. There was only a deep and ancient understanding there. 14 years of being a good man, Mateo whispered softly. All of it turned into gray, wet pulp in the mud. The world says that I do not even exist now. Chewy leaned forward on his small wooden stool. He placed a hand on Mateo's trembling, thin shoulder. The touch was firm and very, very warm. It felt like a fire starting in the cold night.
The box is gone, but you are here, Chewy said. The water can take paper, but not the man. The system did not make you, my brother Mateo. And the system cannot truly delete your living soul. Mateo felt a strange heat in his tired, hollow chest. It was a feeling he had forgotten a long time ago. It was the feeling of being seen completely by someone. Not by a judge with a sharp and cruel pen, but by a man who knew the heart of the wood. Chewy looked at the broken clock once more. Time is not standing still, my old friend. Even when the metal hands do not move at all. A new thing is beginning in this very darkness. Mateo felt his breath become deep and very slow. The air in the room felt very different now. It did not smell like mud and dirty sewage anymore. It smelled like fresh cedar and clean, rain-washed air. It was the beautiful smell of a new beginning. Mateo looked at his calloused and brown worker hands. For the first time, he did not feel any shame. He felt the weight of 14 years of honor. Those years were still inside his strong old bones. Chewy stood up and picked up his wooden stool. He did not say a long or a fancy prayer. He just nodded to the man sitting on the floor. The morning is coming very soon for you, Mateo. And you will walk with your head held high. Mateo watched the man in white leave the house. The door closed with a soft and gentle click. The darkness did not feel like a grave anymore. It felt like a place of quiet and holy rest. He sat alone, but he was not lonely at all. The carpenter had left something behind in that room. It was a spark of hope in the deep dark. Mateo closed his eyes and finally took a breath. The silence was no longer a cold and hard wall. It was a bridge to a very new and bright day. He felt the strength returning to his tired legs. He was no longer a ghost in the big city. He was Mateo, a man of very great value, and his story was far from being over. tonight." Chewie reached out and took Mateo's heavy hands. He held them with great respect and care. Mateo's palms were like old dry leather. They were full of deep lines and scars. "Look at these hands, my brother," Chewie said. "These are your real and true records. A man's worth is not in a box. It is not kept in a cold database." Mateo looked down at his own tired fingers. "But the law says I am nothing," he whispered. Chewie shook his head and smiled very softly. "The judge is just a man with a pen, but the creator is the one who owns the ink. Guzman can sign a paper to take land, but he cannot sign your soul away today." Mateo felt a strange heat in his heart. The heavy pressure on his chest began lifting. It felt like the sun breaking through clouds. "Your 14 years were not wasted, Mateo. They were investments in your very character. A flood can wash away a wooden house, but a storm cannot wash away a man. Integrity is a treasure that the mud cannot touch." Mateo took a long and very deep breath. The air in the shanty changed completely now. It smelled like fresh cedar wood and rain. It felt like the morning after a fever. He realized he was not a deleted number. He was not a ghost in Quezon City. He was a son who had been found. He was a man who was deeply loved. The silence of the room was now holy. The darkness was no longer a scary trap. "I am still here," Mateo said with strength. "I am still the man who worked hard." Chewie nodded and squeezed his hand very tight. "Yes, you are, Mateo," the carpenter said. "You are a master of your own life. The papers are just shadows of the truth. The truth is written in your very bones." Mateo felt the shame falling away like dust. He stood up straighter than he had before. The light of the candle seemed much brighter. He was no longer a victim of the flood. He was a man standing on solid rock. The carpenter's words were like solid gold.
They filled the empty spaces of his heart. "Thank you, Chewie," Mateo said very quietly. He knew now that he would fight again. He was a son of the king. The world could not take that from him. He felt the peace of a new dawn. The sun rose over the metal roofs of Quezon City. Mateo walked to the municipal hall once again. He did not look at the mud on his feet. He did not hide behind an old newspaper today. He walked through the heavy doors with a straight back. The courtroom was full of the smell of old coffee. Judge Guzman sat high on his wooden throne. He looked at Mateo with a very thin smile. "I see you have returned, Mateo," the judge said. "Where is your blue plastic box of proof? Did your God bring your papers back from the sea?" The greedy developers in the front row chuckled loudly. Mateo stood in the middle of the room. He felt the warmth of the carpenter's words. "I do not have the box, Your Honor," Mateo said. His voice was calm and very, very clear. "But I am the proof of 14 years of work. My life is the document you are looking for." Guzman laughed and reached for his heavy gavel. "In this court, only ink and paper matter," he shouted. Suddenly, the heavy doors at the back swung open. A group of 30 men walked into the courtroom. They were the workers from the steel warehouse. They were the men Mateo had trained and helped. They brought their own old notebooks and time cards. With them was a young lawyer in a clean suit. "Chewie told us you were in trouble," one worker said. The lawyer stepped forward to the judge's bench. "We have the secondary records from the main office. The truth has a way of coming to light." Judge Guzman's face turned as white as a sheet. He saw the crowd and the many witnesses. The light of the sun filled the dark room. The extension for the house was granted immediately. Guzman's signature was no longer a weapon of fear. That afternoon, Mateo went to a new building site.
The foreman asked for his government identification card. Mateo held out his rough, calloused and brown hands.
"These are my papers,"
Mateo said with a smile. The foreman shook his hand and hired him instantly.
"Start at 6 o'clock tomorrow,"
the foreman replied. Mateo went home and wound the old wall clock. It began to tick with a steady, happy rhythm. He realized that God works through the hands of men. True dignity is found in patience and honest living. If this story reminded you that God sees everything and acts in His own time, please support it with a like, subscribe to the channel, and write the word "Vira" in the comments if you also believe in God's justice.